Give a call to the honourable member for Deakin.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. My question's to the Minister for Housing. New dwelling construction's at its lowest level in over 10 years. Builders are collapsing and housing investment is dropping on the government's watch. Yet the government's own budget papers say 1.5 million people will come to Australia over the next 5 years. When will the minister finally admit that Labor has no plan to house its big Australia?
Give the call to the Minister for Housing, Homelessness and the Minister for Small Business.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. Of course, those opposite, if they had been in government, would have higher immigration than what we currently have. And that is actually the position that they had previously. But I would say to the member opposite, as he would know, he's actually stopping more housing on the ground today with the Housing Australia Future Fund in the Senate. Absolutely stopping us having a debate and a vote on the Housing Australia Future Fund in the Senate just last sitting week. Indeed, Mr Speaker, we've been getting on with delivering housing right across the country since we came to government. We have not wasted a day in trying to make sure that we get more homes on the ground, despite those opposite and the Green senators standing in the way of our Housing Australia Future Fund, which would deliver 30,000 social and affordable rental homes in Australia in the first 5 years of the fund. 4,000 of those homes would be for women and children fleeing family violence. Seriously, those opposite come in here and talk about housing, and they are standing in the way of a core part of our agenda, Mr Speaker. But of course it's not the only part of our agenda.
The Minister will pause a moment.
Come to office.
The Minister will pause. There is far too much noise from the member for Wannon, Deakin and Hume while this minister is speaking. They will remain silent for the remainder of her answer, or three of them will leave the chamber. Give the call to the minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Since we came to office, we immediately unlocked up to $575 million from the National Housing Infrastructure Facility, and indeed we already have homes being built across the country today because we unlocked that funding. In our first budget in October, we announced the National Housing Accord, a commitment to build a further 20,000 affordable rentals with the states for key workers right across the country. Our expanded home guarantee. We've helped more than 50,000 Australians into home ownership since we came to office. 50,000 in our first year. That includes 6,000 in regional Australia through the Regional First Home Buyer Guarantee that we brought forward by 3 months, Mr Speaker. And of course, in the budget, we announced the Commonwealth Rental Assistance. 15% increase, the largest increase in more than 30 years. Our build-to-rent changes. Our depreciation changes that will add more than 150,000 new dwellings.
The Minister was asked about the budget papers and she's referring to what the government has announced in the budget, but I'll hear from the member for Deakin.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The minister is studiously avoiding 1.5 million people and where they will live. That is relevant to this question and is relevant to the heart of the question, Mr Speaker.
The member is on a warning. I specifically said that the minister was being relevant to the question regarding. She doesn't have to answer every single part of the question. She's got to remain her understanding orders. Got to make sure she's relevant to the question. She's being directly relevant. If you do that again, you'll be asked to leave. The minister is relevant, and I asked her to return to her answer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Of course, in the budget, we also announced a $67.5 million boost to homelessness after the terrible census figures about the increased number of Australians that were homeless. That was part of the additional $1.6 billion for our one-year extension of the National Housing and Homelessness Agreement with the states and territories. And of course, as I have said, the $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund, which is a critical part of our agenda, they continue to block in the Senate. They don't support it. The Green senators don't support it. People come in this place and they want to talk about housing for Australians. They should be honest with their constituents that they are stopping in the way of critical housing that Australians that need it most are relying on today. The sooner we get that fund through, the sooner we get the returns, the sooner we get more homes on the ground more quickly.